Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. My name is Vaishali, and having learned quite a few things from, through, and from within human interactions, and having pursued and completed my master's in business administration and in clinical psychology, and having had the chance to work as a counselor and as a therapist over the last few years, I today wish to practically understand and decode the workings of the subconscious and the unconscious. Now, many of us would be aware that the mind is made up of three layers: the conscious mind, which is also called as the Chetan, the subconscious mind, which in Hindi is also called as the Ardha Chetan or the Avchetan, and the unconscious mind, which is also called as the Achetan. And I'm assuming that many of us would also know or would have also heard that most of our lives is run on the autopilot, which is essentially the subconscious and the unconscious, wherein things are automatically, habitually, out of habit. Choices are being made, thereby decisions are being made, which we are not even aware of. And that chunk of us is constituted, for most of us, generally by 95 to 97 to 98%. And in a way that quite literally tells us that we are not even aware of the choices and the decisions that we are making because they are beneath the level of conscious awareness, because they are in our subconscious and our unconscious. Now, many of us, I'm assuming, would have also heard that the unconscious and the subconscious primarily works on everything that's familiar. So quite naturally and quite logically, when we talk about familiarity, we are talking of the things that we already know, that we have already experienced, that we have already heard, that we have already seen, that we have already said, that we have already interacted with, which means that it's all happened in the past. That is why there's an experience of it. That is why there's a memory recollection of it. That is why there's a familiarity to it. And in a way that's also then quite clearly implying that if 95 to 97 to 98% of our decisions, of our choices are happening out of familiarity, are being taken out of familiarity, which is the past memories, which is the past experiences, quite naturally, on that level of the subconscious, anywhere that ranges from 95 to 98%, we are still providing the past inputs in exactly the same way or similar ways to get exactly the same outputs, because the inputs are the same or similar. So we are getting the same or similar outputs in the present as well. So if we can pick up our lives and we see certain similarities with regards to our experiences, with regards to our interactions, with regards to the output we get, we probably need to reflect on the past, because reflection is about the past. If we are still in the present moment, giving the same inputs to receive the same or similar outputs. Next, it also tells us if the same things are being experienced time and time again, maybe in the same way or in similar ways, in predictable ways, in known ways, in familiar ways, then the past is actually immersed itself, merged itself. It has literally goosified in our present. And unfortunately, if it has gossified, if it has merged so much with our present, anywhere from 95 to 98%, we should actually question how truly are we present in the present. And weirdly enough, and funnily enough, and unfortunately enough, though it has merged itself to such a large degree, though it has gossified itself to such a large degree in our present, yet we are unfortunately not even aware of it. And invariably, then it also implies that the past keeps repeating itself 95 to anywhere up to 98% in our lives as our experiences, as our choices, as our decisions, which to a large degree annoys us, irritates us, angers us, disharmonizes us. And we unfortunately label it as fate. Fate, because we are not aware of it. Because it's not there in our conscious awareness, because it's out of our eyesight. And so, quite naturally, whatever we cannot see and make sense of, most of us end up labeling that very thing either as God, as evil, as fate, or as a ghost. And maybe our subconscious and our unconscious is that, and maybe all of it combined together. And yet, on the other hand, the beauty of the subconscious is that it's super fast, mind-bogglingly fast, that it's precise, that it leaves nothing to randomness, that it is constantly working, that it is picking up everything and leaving nothing to chance. And when I say that it leaves nothing to chance, that it captures all the details precisely, what I'm also saying is that it picks up on the minutest emotions, the minutest shift in expressions, the minutest shift in tonality or the tone of our voice, the minutest shift in our body language, the minutest details that happens in our interactions. Exactly the way how it's described in the movie PK, wherein this particular character played by Amir Khan as an alien, as PK itself or PK himself, goes on to say, पूरा 6 घंटा लगा एक भाषा सीखने में. It took me full 6 hours to learn a language and all of the minutest details about that language. And he goes on to say, बहुत ही confusion है. There's far too much confusion with regards to the way you humans interact, wherein he is actually talking about the little details that he picked up, even with regards to the usage of the word acha, wherein he specifically goes on to say that if somebody is nodding their head like this or like this, and at the same time if they are saying acha hai, what they are actually saying is all is okay, everything's fine. However, if there's a shift in the voice, in the body language, in the tone, in the facial expressions, in the body expressions, that same acha means something very different. So if it is said something like this, अच्छा अपने आप को ज्यादा होशियार समझते हो, or अच्छा हमसे पंगा लेना है. In a way, that shift in expression, that shift in the tone, that shift in the volume of the voice, and that shift in the body language, that shift in the facial expressions is about demonstrating some kind of a power play within that equation, where somebody is saying, you think too highly of yourself? Really? Or somebody else is also saying, oh, really? You want to mess with me? In the similar way, when he talks of acha being used as a surprise, wherein the same word with a different tonality, with a different facial expression, with a different body language becomes something else, wherein it can register as a shock or as a surprise. Acha, acha, acha. And even if we notice over here, the subtlety in the expressions with regards to my face and with regards to the change in voice is captured by the subconscious and the unconscious. And if the same acha happens to be said by somebody who's being thoughtful about a certain matter, who's speculating and contemplating on a certain matter, the same person can express the same word acha in a very different way. And it can sound like acha, which may sound like, I see, oh, all right. And it's not just the shift in the facial expressions and in the tone of my voice or the person's voice, but even it's the change in the body language as well. And not only that, he even goes on to add that the confusion is just not limited to this. The confusion is also in keeping with the distortion and the discrepancy, in keeping with the non-alignment of your thoughts, of your words, and your actions, which adds more confusion to the already existing confusion in keeping with your communication. He's actually pointing out over here the workings of our subconscious and our unconscious, which barely registers in our conscious awareness. And to me, if I can metaphorically put it, it's like the God or the devil inside of us that's awake 24/7, that misses nothing, that captures everything in details, that's super fast, that's super efficient, and yet is not present, does not reveal itself to us in our conscious states, in our conscious awareness. So today I'd like to take up this particular example with regards to understanding the workings of this God within us, which is what I call as the subconscious and the unconscious, which is working without stopping, which misses nothing, which is precise, and in a way makes magically things happen for us even without our awareness, is taking decisions for us, making choices for us, even without our awareness. Now let me state this once again, that it's a metaphorical representation, it's a symbolic representation and an expression that I'm using to help us understand the workings of the unconscious and the subconscious. And yet, in this particular video, I'm not capturing the emotions, the feelings, and the beliefs, which also constitute a huge chunk, not junk, but chunk of our subconscious and our unconscious. But this example has been taken just to demonstrate how precisely, how specifically, how fast our subconscious and our unconscious works. How it absolutely misses nothing. How even through this example, even if I had missed one step, the entire thing would not have gotten executed. It's also to help us understand how our subconscious and our unconscious is constantly choosing and making decisions. It's also to help us understand how it's wiring towards familiarity, which is naturally associated with the past, helps it in providing the same inputs, thereby resulting in the same or similar outputs 95 to 98% of the times. And lastly, how powerful it is, how detailed oriented it is, how specific it is, how precise it is, how not random it is, that if we need to make any changes that is forming 95 to 98% of our chunk, we need to be able to bring it into our conscious awareness first before we decide if we need to make some changes, because those changes will have to be done in small incremental dosages, at least for most of us. And it is those small incremental changes which, when gradually built up, can result in bigger changes with regards to both the input and the output that we receive, that we even expect to receive. So this activity that I had taken up, that I had jotted down, is using mathematical algorithm, something which I had learned when I was in class 7th or class 8th, somewhere around that time, to decode, to make regular tea with milk and ginger, to understand the working of the subconscious. So if I were to take this particular example, wherein I had to make tea for 3 people, tea with milk and ginger and sugar, what are the procedures, what are the choices and the decisions that I am making in order to prepare that concoction, which I'm not even aware of, which are happening, but happening out of my conscious awareness. And let's also assume that I have all the ingredients in my house which are required to make this particular tea or this particular concoction, something that we call as chai. And let's also assume that I'm making this tea in the morning by around 6:30 a.m. Let's also assume that I'm just waking up in the morning and I've also done my meditation. Let's also assume that this is the first thing after meditation, after just a bit of stretching myself, and after having gone to the washroom, I decide to do in the morning. So given all of those assumptions that I'm making the tea for 3 people, that I'm just getting up and probably have meditated for a few minutes and have used the washroom, I now come into the kitchen. Now, even before I do that, there are a multiple of things that I'm already choosing to do, that I'm already deciding to do. Wherein as soon as I open my eyes, I'm stretching myself in my bed. I'm stretching my limbs in my bed, to then gradually sitting up for meditation, till the time I reach a place wherein I go into a blank space of no thoughts and no emotions. After which, I get out of the bed, wear my slippers, and then fold my blanket using both hands. And then I put the blanket back in its place, put the pillows back in its place, and make my bed. Tuck my bed sheets properly, using both hands. After which, I switch off the fan and move towards the door. I use my left hand to handle the latch and then to open the door before I step out of the bedroom. Whereafter which, I move into the washroom to wash my face with water, which also requires me to use my right hand to open up the tap water, to then fill it up in both hands and to splash it on my face a few times. After which I brush my teeth and do all the other stuff before I open the washroom door, again using my right hand to step out of the washroom, after which I move into the kitchen. Now, after I move into the kitchen, using my right hand, I open up one of the drawers and remove a saucepan in which I make my tea using my right hand, and I put it on the gas burner. Using my left hand, or at times my knee, I gently push the drawer to close it so that I don't hurt myself. Now I pull open another drawer in which the forks and the spoons and the lighter is kept, and I'm using my right hand to be able to do that. Once I open that drawer, I use my left hand to remove the lighter, and I use my right hand to remove the sieve, and after which I also remove the grater, which I'll be using at another point in time to grate the ginger. Now using my right hand, I gently push the drawer so that it closes and I don't hurt myself. Now I move myself onto the other countertop wherein the filled water bottles are kept. And this countertop is parallel to the one on which the gas burner is placed. Using my left hand, I pick up the water bottle and I bring it to this countertop wherein I'm making tea. Now I hold the water bottle in the left hand and I open up the lid. Using my right hand, place the lid on the countertop and even place the bottle on the countertop. Now I pick up the cup with my left hand and pour the water from the water bottle in the cup and then pour this measured 1 cup of water into the saucepan. And I repeat the process once again to have 2 cups of water in the saucepan. After which, using my left hand, I move the gas knob and picking up the lighter in the other hand, I move the gas knob in another direction and I put the lighter near the gas burner. I push the trigger of the lighter to be able to light up the gas burner. After which, I once again open up another drawer to remove the lid with my right hand, which I use to cover the saucepan. And while I cover the saucepan using my right hand with the lid, I also use my right knee to gently push the drawer inside. Once again, I'm doing all of these things together to make my task more efficient, to reduce the wastage of gas, and to also prevent myself from the chance of getting hurt by an open drawer, which is why I close it using my right knee. And there are so many choices and decisions that I've already made, that I am making, and that I've been making without actually realizing it. And we've still not reached a place wherein we've brought the tea leaf storage box, the sugar storage box, the ginger from the fridge on the countertop itself. And yet, if we understand, so many choices and so many decisions have already been made. They have been made automatically. They have been made habitually, just out of habit, which I'm quite mindless about, which I'm doing in an automatic way, almost in a robotic way, which I don't have any conscious awareness about, till I actually sat down to take up this activity, to jot down every choice and every decision that I was making every second while I was preparing a concoction called as chai or tea. And when I was listing down all of the little choices and decisions that I was making while making this concoction called as tea, I realized that I've roughly made around 65 to 70 choices and decisions. Right from using one particular hand, to removing one particular thing, to opening up one particular thing, to removing one particular thing, and measuring it in the familiar way, to then be putting it in the familiar way like I've always done in the past, gave me the same outcome, gave me the same tea that I've enjoyed almost most mornings. And to understand, just in the process of making tea, had anything been missed, the tea would not have been made. Had I missed opening the drawer itself to remove the saucepan, I would not have been able to make the tea because the saucepan had not been removed from the drawer to then be put on the gas burner. Had I not picked up the water bottle and then opened up the lid using another hand, the water bottle would not have come towards the saucepan and would not have said that let me unscrew my own lid and let me rise up and tilt myself to be able to pour my water that I have stored into the saucepan. Had I not made the choice to remove the lighter from the drawer, which would require me to open the drawer in the first place, I would not have lit the gas burner. Well, somebody could say that I could use matchsticks. Well, of course, I could use matchsticks, but still to make the choice to be able to pick up the matchstick, the matchbox, then to be able to push the box that contains the matches, the matchsticks, to remove one of them, to then close the box, and then to strike it against the matchbox, to be able to burn it up, and then to bring it near the gas burner, to be able to light it up. would not have been possible had all of those choices and decisions not been made. And this is how our subconscious works out of habits, habits that have been built over years and years together, habits that happen automatically, habits that do not require our awareness or our conscious presence or our conscious attention or our conscious engagement. They are just automatic, they are just mechanical, invariably implying for machines, machine-like, not human-like. Which also then tells me that we are making so many decisions from our subconscious, from our unconscious, which is gathering every data, which is storing every information from around its surroundings that we are not even aware of. And in a way, it's both a blessing that we get the privilege to not be so thoughtful and mindful about things. The privilege of taking things for granted, because that's how they've always been done. That's how we've always done them, out of just habits and familiarity. But that's also where our biggest curse comes into the picture, wherein we are not even aware of the decisions and the choices that we are making. That we keep repeating the same old, expecting different results. Well, if input is the same old, the output would naturally be the same old. And it is from there that we get to choose if we wish to keep choosing the same old and keep having the same old outputs, or if we choose to have something different. If we want different outputs, we need to give in different inputs as well, which is where awareness comes into the picture. This activity also told me that even pulling the drawer is a choice and a decision that I'm making. For without me having to pull the drawer, neither the cup nor the saucer, nor the grater nor the sieve, nor the lighter nor the saucepan would come out, would bring themselves out, just because I wanted to have some tea. Which makes me think that maybe we should take some time out for ourselves to actually do these kind of activities, to reflect on the minutest of decisions, the smallest of decisions, the precise decisions that our subconscious is already making without us being consciously aware of, so that we realize the powers inside of us, which is why it's also called as the power of the subconscious and the unconscious. Because if we are able to look into those details and those precisions, we probably will have more autonomy over our decisions, over our choices. We probably will have more discernment with regards to our own decisions, with regards to our own choices, with regards to the inputs that we give in, and the expected outcomes that we expect for ourselves. Let's at least try and take up this kind of an activity for ourselves, maybe regarding one or two things, so that we become more aware of the choices, of the decisions that we already are making. And maybe it might give us a chance to be a little more awestruck by our own selves, by what I'd call as the God living inside all of us. Let's kind of reflect on ourselves, taking one or two activities once in a while into consideration, or even our own emotions that surface up because they get triggered, or even our own reactions which surface up, or from any other area of life that keeps repeating itself, and that we'd actually like for that to keep repeating, or the ones that we'd like to change, and use such mathematical algorithms, or from any other area of life, to be able to understand the details, the minuteness, the precision with which our subconscious makes our decisions. Let's try to gain more insight into ourselves, to be a little more awestruck with the God that resides within all of us. Because the God inside all of us, which I call as the subconscious and the unconscious, is just waiting for our command, is just waiting to say, Jo hukum mere aaga, or Tathastu. Let's try and look a little more into ourselves, and I will see you once again the next week. Till then, stay tuned in. And guys, if you do like the contextual content of these videos, please do like, share, and subscribe.